From the beginning of creation until today, the obsession with power has blinded human beings many times. When a person gets a little bit of power, they forget the source of their own creation. They start to think that they own this earth, this sky, this air, everything. But history bears witness that whenever a human being crossed the limits of arrogance and tried to place themselves in the position of the Creator, Almighty Allah crushed them into the dust in such a way that it became a terrifying example for people until the Day of Judgment. Today, we will learn about a powerful ruler from the pages of history, whose kingdom stretched from east to west. Even tigers and lions were afraid of his army. But his downfall did not come from the strike of a huge sword, nor from a nuclear bomb, nor from an attack by a foreign king. His death and destruction were written at the hands of one of the smallest, most insignificant and weakest creatures of Allah's creation, a mosquito, and not even a healthy, strong one, but a lame mosquito. Yes, viewers, today we will hear about the terrifying fate of Namrud. We will hear how a human made of flesh and blood showed the audacity to claim he was God, and how Almighty Allah gifted him a humiliating and disgusting death for the world to see. I request you to watch the video until the very end, to know this thrilling true story, and to feel the power of Almighty Allah. And if you are visiting our channel for the first time today, please subscribe now to become a member of our family, so that you can be the first to know about such unknown and educational events of Islamic history. According to history and the descriptions of scholars, only 4 rulers have been found in history who ruled the whole world or most of the earth. Among them, 2 were believers who believed in Allah and 2 were disbelievers. The 2 believing rulers were the beloved prophet of Almighty Allah, Sulaiman alayhi salam, and the just king Dhul Qarnayn. The 2 disbelieving rulers were Bakht Nasser and the subject of today's story, Namrud. Namrud was the absolute ruler of the city of Babel, or ancient Babylon. Historians say that Namrud was the first person in the history of the world to wear a royal crown and introduce royal luxury. His reign lasted for nearly 400 years. For this long period, he ruled the earth with power, committed oppression, and kept people as slaves. He became so blinded by the intoxication of power and the whispers of Satan that he did not limit himself to being just a king or ruler. Instead, he openly declared that he was the Lord and sustainer of the world. Na'uzu billah. The people of that time were extremely misguided and were idol worshippers. They used to worship the stars in the sky and idols made by their own hands. Namrud took advantage of their ignorance and wanted to establish himself as God. He introduced a strange rule in his royal palace. At that time, famine often occurred in the city of Babel, or Namrud's kingdom, and people needed food. Namrud kept the exclusive control of grain and food distribution in his own hands. Thousands of people from far and wide would crowd in front of his palace in hopes of getting a little food. Before giving the grain, Namrud would ask everyone a question. He would ask, "Who is your Lord?"
Who is your Lord?
The hungry people, out of the need for food or trembling in fear of Namrud, would answer, "You are our Lord." Namrud would give plenty of grain to those who acknowledged him as Lord and send them away. But for those who refused to accept him as Lord, he would not only turn them away empty-handed, but inhumane torture would also descend upon them. By establishing a reign of fear in this way, Namrud began to consider himself the possessor of all power. He thought there was no one in the heavens and the earth to challenge him. But he did not know that when the oppression of the oppressor reaches its limit, the time for Allah's help and judgment arrives. To guide this misguided nation to the right path and to expose the mask of Namrud's false claim, Almighty Allah sent a great man to the soil of Iraq at that time. He was none other than the father of the Muslim nation, the sincere bearer of monotheism, Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam was a seeker of truth and a worshipper of the one Allah since his childhood. When he saw his nation worshipping stars and idols and Namrud claiming to be God, he stood up against their mistakes. He began to explain to people that Namrud is not a lord. He is just an ordinary human being like us. The owner of life and death is only Allah. The news of Ibrahim alayhi salam's preaching reached Namrud's ears as fast as the wind. Namrud was surprised and furious upon hearing this. In his kingdom, eating his food and living under his rule, who is this young man who dares to oppose him? The arrogant Namrud ordered Ibrahim alayhi salam to be brought to his court.
They dare to defy me! Bring me their heads! Mobilize the legions immediately! I want their city burned by sunrise!
Thus began a historical confrontation between truth and falsehood, which is still written in golden letters in the Holy Quran. Namrud's huge court was then packed with people, and standing in the middle of ministers, generals and courtiers was a young man, Ibrahim alayhi salam. There was no fear in his eyes or face. Instead, there was a glowing light of faith, Iman. Namrud asked him,
Who do you accept as Lord?
My Lord is He who gives life and causes death.
Namrud burst into loud laughter. He thought the matter of life and death was very simple. He could do that too. He arrogantly said,
I also give life and cause death.
To prove his false claim, he immediately arranged a cruel drama. He ordered 2 prisoners to be brought from the jail. One was a prisoner sentenced to death, whose death was certain. The other was completely innocent, who was supposed to live. Namrud said to the prisoner sentenced to death, I forgive you, from today you are free, meaning he claimed he gave him life. Then he ordered the executioner to kill the innocent man. The executioner immediately severed his head. Namrud looked at Ibrahim alayhi salam, smiled a smile of victory and said, Did you see? I can also give life and give death. Namrud's logic was extremely ridiculous and foolish. But Ibrahim alayhi salam knew that there was no point in arguing with this foolish ruler using ordinary logic. He had to give such an irrefutable argument that no human in this universe has the power to refute. So he changed the course of the debate and highlighted a huge sign of Almighty Allah's power. Ibrahim alayhi salam said in a very calm but firm voice, Indeed,
Allah makes the sun rise from the east.
If you are truly God, then show me by making it rise from the west. In an instant, pin-drop silence fell over Namrud's court. The Namrud, who was boasting about being the owner of life and death just a moment ago, became dumbfounded in front of this, challenged to change the sun's path. No words came out of his mouth. In the Holy Quran, Almighty Allah describes this scene. Thus the disbeliever was utterly silenced or confounded, because no human has the power to change the inevitable laws of nature, no matter how great a king he may be. Defeated in the battle of logic, Namrud's pride was severely hurt. He realized that it was not possible to defeat Ibrahim alayhi salam with words. But he did not have the moral courage to accept the truth. Instead, the devil inside him made him even more violent. He decided that he would declare war against the Lord that Ibrahim alayhi salam was inviting people to. Namrud told his courtiers, I must reach Ibrahim's Lord. I will kill him. From this madness, he ordered the construction of a huge tower or minaret so that he could climb it and peek into the sky. But by the power of Allah, that tower crumbled and was destroyed. Yet Namrud did not stop. He now plotted to fly into the sky to fight. He collected 4 huge vulture chicks and fed them meat to make them big and strong. Then he made a wooden chest, attached it to the vultures, and hung meat above the chest, so that the vultures would fly upwards in greed for that meat. It is said that riding this strange vehicle, Namrud flew towards the sky and disappeared into the darkness. At one point he started shooting arrows towards the sky so that he could hit the god of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Allah Ta'ala wanted to take this transgressor to the final stage of his foolishness. So when he shot an arrow towards the sky, by the order of Almighty Allah, that arrow returned down in a bloody state, perhaps hitting a bird or fish in the sky. Seeing the bloody arrow, Namrud became overwhelmed with joy. He came down and started boasting to his group, I have come back after killing Ibrahim's God. Na'uzubillah. When his audacity reached an unforgivable level, Allah Ta'ala decided to destroy him and his army completely. But Allah did not send any angels, nor did he send any thunderbolts from the sky. He wanted to punish this arrogant man with the weakest creature of his creation. Meanwhile, Ibrahim alayhi salam warned Namrud for the last time.
I plead with you one last time, O Namrud. Abandon this arrogance and repent, for my God is the true Lord of all creation.
Otherwise, Allah's punishment will engulf you. But drunk on power, Namrud did not even listen to that warning. He said, "Who in the world has an army stronger than mine? Who will destroy me?" Then Allah Ta'ala threw a challenge to Namrud through Ibrahim alayhi salam. It was said that Namrud should gather with all his soldiers, elephants, horses, and weapons in a huge open field outside the city. There it would be decided whose power is greater. On the appointed day, with the sunrise, Namrud appeared in the field with his hundreds of thousands of soldiers. The vastness of his army was eye-catching. Mile after mile, there were only soldiers and soldiers. The sunlight reflecting off their armor was dazzling the eyes. Namrud sat on his high throne, looking around with arrogance, thinking that today he would crush Ibrahim alayhi salam's God and any of his armies in an instant. He looked at the sky and waited for the opponent to arrive. Suddenly, a strange scene was seen on the distant horizon. It seemed as if a huge black cloud was rushing in from the other side of the horizon. At first, Namrud and his generals thought maybe a storm was coming. But as that black cloud got closer, the sound of the wind became more terrifying. A buzzing sound began to shake the entire field. The soldiers started looking at each other's faces in fear, because that was no ordinary cloud. It was a special army sent by Allah. In moments, that black layer covered the sunlight, and the darkness of night descended upon the earth at noon. Namrud looked closely and saw that they were not clouds. They were millions and millions of mosquitoes, but not ordinary mosquitoes in size and shape. These were terrifying and ferocious. Allah Ta'ala sent a huge swarm of insignificant mosquitoes to crush the pride of Namrud's vast army, which was so numerous that the sky could not be seen because of them. Before Namrud's soldiers could understand anything or prepare for war, the swarm of mosquitoes crashed upon them like cannonballs. Usually mosquitoes sit on human skin and suck blood, but these mosquitoes sent by Allah's command were of a completely different nature and ferocious. They began to penetrate directly into the soldiers' bodies, piercing through their hard iron armor, skin, and flesh. In an instant, a horrific situation was created on the entire battlefield. Namrud's powerful army, which dreamed of conquering the world with swords and spears, became completely helpless before this tiny creature. They swung their swords, cutting the air, but could do nothing to the mosquitoes. The commentators, mufassirs, and historians described that the mosquitoes entered the bodies through the soldiers' eyes, ears, and nostrils, eating their brains and blood in such a way that within a short time, a healthy, strong warrior would dry up and fall to the ground as a skeleton. The sky and air trembled with the screams and cries of the soldiers. The elephants and horses started running in all directions in pain and began to die from being trampled. In the blink of an eye, that vast army, which Namrud boasted about, turned into a pile of ruins and a mountain of bones. But the surprising thing is, amidst this great catastrophe, Namrud remained completely untouched. Thousands of people standing around him died, but not a single mosquito touched him. Allah did not want Namrud to die so easily or have an ordinary death. He wanted to give him such an exemplary punishment that would remain permanent in the pages of history and be a lesson for the oppressors of the future. Seeing his empire and power destroyed before his eyes, Namrud fled towards the palace in fear and panic. He thought maybe he had survived, maybe his luck was good, but he did not know that a special and unimaginable guest was waiting for him. According to various narrations, there was one mosquito in that huge army that was weak, lame, and had a broken wing. Because it could not fly fast with the other mosquitoes, it was flying in last very slowly. Almighty Allah selected that weak and insignificant mosquito to punish the ruler who claimed to be the strongest on earth. when Namrud returned to his palace and tried to catch his breath in relief. Right then, by the command of Allah, that lame mosquito flew in and sat on the tip of Namrud's nose. Namrud got annoyed and tried to shoo it away with his hand, but the mosquito buzzed and came back to sit again. As many times as he shooed it away, the mosquito returned. Finally, with a deep breath taken by Namrud, that tiny lame mosquito went straight through his nostril and entered inside his brain. And through this began the final and most pathetic and painful chapter of an arrogant ruler's life. After the mosquito entered the brain, a unique scene of Allah's punishment began on Namrud. Whenever that tiny mosquito moved or bit inside his brain, Namrud felt as if he was being struck inside his head with thousands of hammers. He started screaming like a madman in pain and running from one end of the palace to the other. The head that once held itself high towards the sky in pride, today rolled on the ground in pain. Hearing his screams, the palace servants and guards rushed in. Namrud ordered them,
Strike me upon the head! Fulfill your king's command! Do it now!
and Namrud would get a little relief. First with hands, then with sticks. But when nothing was working, a strange round of treatment began. Namrud ordered his servants to hit his head hard with sturdy shoes or sandals, because only the beating of shoes would make the mosquito stunned and bring relief to Namrud's pain. Think about it, the person who spent his whole life forcing people to bow their heads at his feet. Today his life's last piece lies under the shoes of people. This is how Almighty Allah humiliates the arrogant and traps them in their own trap. The tafsir scholars and historians mention that just as Namrud ruled with power for 400 years, Allah Ta'ala punished him through this mosquito for 400 years. For this long period, he wished for death, but death did not come to him. Every day, morning and evening, his subjects and servants would come in lines and hit their so-called God on the head with shoes. This was his royal medicine. This was his honor. Finally, one day, due to a severe blow from a shoe, his skull cracked open and that lame mosquito came out of his brain. And through this, the life of a false god came to an end. Namrud's death was the most humiliating, hateful, and disgusting in history. Namrud's tragic fate left a huge lesson for the world. It proved that power, money, and huge armies are weaker than a spider's web in front of Allah's will. No matter how powerful a human is, his arrogance and excess lead him towards destruction. In today's world, too, those who oppress people with the arrogance of power and forget Allah should remember that their downfall can happen. Like Namrud, for a very trivial reason. If Allah wills, He can crush all their arrogance through a virus, a mosquito, or the wind. If we review the history of Namrud's fall, we see that Allah Ta'ala did not destroy him immediately. He gave him a long life, gave him a kingdom, and sent his prophet to him to give the call of truth. But Namrud did not use that opportunity. This event is hinted at in Surah Ibrahim and Surah Baqarah of the Holy Quran. Scholars say, why didn't Allah kill Namrud with an elephant or a tiger? Why did He choose a mere mosquito or fly? There is a great wisdom behind this. Namrud claimed to be the greatest, so Allah destroyed him with the smallest and most insignificant creature of His creation, so that until the day of judgment, people understand that in front of Allah's power, there is no difference between big and small. The Namrud, who built huge buildings and challenged the Lord of the heavens, Allah defeated that Namrud with a creature that has no intelligence, no strength. It was an extreme mockery of his arrogance. Moreover, we can learn another deep mystery from this event. When Namrud threw Ibrahim alayhis salam into the fire, Allah ordered the fire to become cool. The fire could not burn even a single hair of Ibrahim alayhis salam. On the other hand, when Namrud wanted to fight with Allah, Allah did not destroy his army with fire or stones, but sent a creature that sucked their blood. Meaning Allah showed that He can keep fire calm if He wants. And He can also wipe out a powerful army with a weak creature like a mosquito if He wants. Namrud's death reminds us that human power, influence, and wealth are all mirages. Today one is a king, tomorrow a beggar. Today one is healthy, tomorrow sick. Namrud was never sick for a single day in his 400 years of rule. He never even had a headache. This health made him heedless, ghafil. He thought he was immortal, but his final outcome showed him that he is a man of clay and must mix with the clay. The ruins of the city of Babel still stand on the chest of Iraq, reminding tourists of a cursed ruler. Thousands of years have passed, but no one respects Namrud. No one remembers his name with love. On the other hand, Ibrahim alayhi salam, who had no army, no royal palace, is honored by billions of people, even after thousands of years. When his name is uttered, heads bow in respect. This is the victory of truth and the defeat of falsehood. From the story of Namrud, we can realize another amazing truth, which strengthens our faith. Namrud tried to build a huge tower in the city of Babel with his immense wealth and thousands of workers, known in history as the Tower of Babel. The sole purpose of building that skyscraper tower was to express his arrogance and, na'uz billah, to challenge the Lord of the heavens. But Allah Ta'ala turned that tower into dust and confused the language of the people of Babel. On the other hand, Almighty Allah ordered his close friend Ibrahim alayhis salam to build Allah's house, or the Kaaba, Sharif, with simple stones in the uninhabited desert of Makkah, where there were no trees or water. Outwardly, Namrud's tower was much more magnificent, powerful, and expensive. And the house built by Ibrahim alayhi salam was very ordinary and simple. But looking at the results of history, what do we see today? No existence of Namrud's huge tower remains today. It has mixed with the soil and turned into a ruin. There is only emptiness, dust, and the sound of tourists' footsteps. No one goes there with devotion, but rather goes to witness the fall of a cursed ruler. Yet Allah Ta'ala has given such dignity and height to that simple house of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the holy Kaaba Sharif, that for thousands of years, millions of people around the world face that house and pray 5 times a day. Not only that, people go crazy to rush from one end of the world to the other just to see that house once and to perform tawaf. This is the main difference between truth and falsehood. Namrud wanted to forcibly place himself on a high throne, so Allah brought him down to a level lower than an animal. And Ibrahim alayhi salam completely surrendered himself to Allah and was humble. So Allah honored him in the heavens and the earth. Look at the sign of this honor. When we Muslims pray, our prayer is not complete until we recite Durud Ibrahim after the Tashahhud. Subhanallah. Have you thought about it? Namrud wanted to wipe out the name of Ibrahim alayhi salam from the earth. And today, a believing Muslim prays for peace upon Ibrahim alayhi salam and his descendants, standing in prayer until the last day of his life. What greater victory can there be than this? Allah threw an arrogant ruler into the trash can of history, and Allah placed a sacrificing prophet in the jewel chamber of the world's heart. Therefore, the lesson for us from this event today is that honor and humiliation are solely in the hands of Allah. If anyone wants to get honor forcibly by the power of money or influence, their fall is inevitable, like Namrud. And if anyone follows Allah's laws and becomes humble, Allah grants them high status, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, in this world and the hereafter. May Almighty Allah grant us all the ability to stay away from arrogance like Namrud, and to build our lives according to the ideals of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ameen. So come, let us take a lesson from this fate of Namrud, admit our insignificance and surrender to the great Lord. May Allah protect us from all kinds of arrogance and shirk. If you liked the video, please give it a like and share it to give your friends a chance to know this educational event. Subscribe to our channel right now to know more such thrilling and true stories of Islamic history. See you in the next video. Until then, stay well, stay healthy. Allah Hafiz.